Crazy week for clowns making absolute fools of themselves at sporting events in the stands.
Sometimes you need that reset. Oh.
And Bader just unloads on this one. Deep left field, and that one is gone as Bader.
A Karen decided it was a good idea to steal a home run ball from a little boy.
This is the Phillies Karen saga. A home run ball taken from a kid, a $5,000 offer to return it with "I'm sorry" scrawled across the leather, and a viral hunt that refuses to die. From a dad who chose peace to brands, turning outrage into marketing gold, and a silent central figure pouring fuel on the fire. This is how a souvenir became a national spectacle. Let's trace the play, the pile-on, and the price of staying quiet. It started like a postcard. Crack of the bat. A white arc rising over left field, a dad in perfect position, hands steady, no elbows thrown. He tracks it, secures it, and without hesitation, drops the prize into his son's glove. Clean, simple, the kind of memory baseball promises and rarely delivers. For a heartbeat, the whole section breathes the same air. A few claps, a grin from the kid, a nod from the dad that says, "This one's yours." If the story ended there, we wouldn't be talking, but it didn't. A woman in Phillies gear steps in, hot, finger up, voice sharp. She says the magic words that end arguments and start headlines. "That's my ball." You can feel the temperature rise. The kid tightens his grip. The dad tries reason, empty seats, clear catch, a gift to his boy. None of it lands. Because in the stands, logic loses to volume, eyes are watching, ushers hover, a choice appears no parent wants to make. Protect the moment or prevent a scene. He chooses peace. He takes the ball back from his son and hands it over. The sound that follows isn't a cheer. It's a wave of disbelief rolling through the section. Boos, mutters that "Are you serious?" tone strangers use when they agree on one thing. The kid's face says everything. The photo op vanished. The fairy tale blinked out. A souvenir turned into a story none of them wanted. Ballpark etiquette is simple. When you're at home on the couch, give it to the kid, be the hero. But in real time, with adrenaline and 1,000 eyes, people fold, flare, or try to disappear. This dad picked the exit that wouldn't ruin the night. He just didn't know it would start something bigger. Because the moment the ball left that glove, another ball started flying straight into the internet. And that's where the real game began. Phones came out like reflexes. One clip, then 3 angles, then a stitched supercut with slow zooms and captions. The boos in the section turned into a chorus online, and by the time the inning ended, the internet had already crowned a villain. A nickname stuck in seconds, sharp, catchy, impossible to outrun. That's how it works now. The crowd doesn't just watch, it captions. Edits, multiplied. Ominous music. Freeze frames on a pointed finger. Rewinds to the exact moment. The ball leaves the kid's glove. Comment threads lit up with instant verdicts. No rulebook, just emotion. People didn't argue balls and strikes. They argued decency. The story left sports pages and landed on meme accounts, parenting forums, talk show rundowns. When a moment feels like a lesson, the internet turns it into a sermon. And then the hunt. Digital detectives paused frames, read lips, matched jerseys, guessed jobs, guessed names. Speculation hit overdrive and spilled into real lives. Innocent lookalikes were tagged, messaged, forced to say "not me." That's the part no one clips. The fallout on people who simply resemble a character the web invented. Once a narrative is rolling, facts have to sprint just to catch up. Meanwhile, the original video kept climbing. New edits, new takes, new moral of the story. Some called it entitlement. Others said it was fear, dad choosing calm over chaos. The woman stayed silent, which only made the noise louder. On the timeline, silence reads like confirmation. In real life, it might just be shock. A souvenir had become a symbol, and symbols don't get context. They get shared, but the algorithm wasn't finished. Because the next twist didn't come from the crowd, it came from the teams on the field. And what happened next changed the tone in one surprising swing. He didn't shout, he didn't plead. He just looked down at an empty glove and said the line that landed harder than any hot take: "We can't win." 10 years old, and suddenly he was the calm center of a storm adults created. That sentence traveled faster than the clip. It was small, honest, and devastating. The internet turned Lincoln into a symbol. Not just a kid who lost a ball, but every kid who gets steamrolled by grown-up agendas. Edits layered his words over soft piano. Captions called him the real MVP. People saw their own childhoods in that face. The moments you learn that fairness and outcomes don't always shake hands. This is why it stuck. Sports promises merit, You hustle, you earn, you get the prize. But souvenirs aren't governed by box scores. They live in that messy space where etiquette, adrenaline, and ego collide. When a child loses in that space, it hits something primal. The crowd doesn't debate rules, it defends innocence. Commentators reached for history. Bartman, the archetype of fan infamy. But this wasn't interference with a live ball or a season on the line. This was after the play, after the cheer, in the aisle where memories are made or unmade. The contrast sharpened the outrage. It wasn't about costs or curses. It was about a moment that should have been safe. Lincoln's quote did one more thing. It gave everyone a script. Team stand your ground said the lesson should be to hold firm. Team protect your kid said the lesson is to walk away with dignity and let the world boo. Either way, that quiet line kept both sides talking, and the longer they talked, the bigger the story grew. But a symbol can't stay suspended forever. Someone has to move first. And in this case, the next move didn't come from the timeline. It came from inside the ballpark, where staff and players tried to rewrite the ending in real time. A few innings later, the tone flipped. Marlins staff walked down the aisle with bags of gear, jerseys, caps, bobbleheads, the whole show, and stopped right at Lincoln's row. Another ball appeared. The section that had just booed roared like it was a walk-off. For a second, the internet didn't matter. The kid did. It wasn't hush money. It was theater with a purpose. Repair the memory, salvage the night, remind everyone why they came. Cameras found the smiles. The crowd ate it up. That's the modern ballpark playbook. When a moment breaks, you don't argue, you overcorrect. You drown a bad clip in a better one. After the final out, the story got a new chapter. Harrison Bader met Lincoln in the clubhouse corridor and handed him a signed bat, the kind of memento that outlasts outrage. The photo told a different truth. The player who hit the ball, the kid who should have kept it, and a souvenir no one could take back this time. It felt like the game itself stepping in to say, "We've got this." But make no mistake, this was also message control in real time. Teams know a viral spark can torch a brand by morning, so they stage a redemption arc before fans reach the parking lot. In 2025, you don't just win games, you win narratives. Still, the next twist didn't come from the dugout or the league office. It came from the outside, from a trading card giant dangling cash and a public apology like bait. And that offer would turn a messy moment into a headline-grabbing challenge. Then came the curveball. No one expected. Cash on the table. A trading card heavyweight stepped forward and said, "We'll pay $5,000 for that ball, on one condition." The condition wasn't subtle. The woman had to return it with "I'm sorry" written across the leather in her own hand, not authentication. A confession. Suddenly, a souvenir wasn't just a keepsake, it was a contract. People split fast. Some called it perfect, justice with a receipt. Others called it a stunt, humiliation packaged as charity. The company didn't care which side you picked. Every argument kept their name in the feed. That's the genius and the gamble. Turn outrage into an activation, then let the crowd market it for free. The offer did something else. It set a price on reputation. $5,000 to write 2 words and end a saga. Or refuse. Keep the ball and wear the villain cape forever. The internet loves binary choices, and this one was made for a poll. Would you take the deal? Flooded timelines. Everyone had a number. Everyone had a line. Meanwhile, the ball itself became a prop in a bigger play. Ownership, pride, public penance. Return it and bow to the mob. Keep it and prove you don't blink. Either way, the clicks kept multiplying. The woman stayed silent. The check stayed hypothetical. And brands noticed the heat rising. Because when a $5,000 apology turns a wrist flick into headline ink, you know what happens next. Another player with deeper pockets steps in and changes the stakes entirely. The next offer didn't come from a fan or a forum. It came from a CEO with a megaphone. One post, and suddenly the Feltwells weren't just getting a do-over. They were getting a World Series trip and the keys to an RV. Overnight, the story pivoted from stolen moment to ultimate upgrade. The message was simple: lose a ball, gain a lifetime memory. People loved it. People side-eyed it. Was it generosity or genius marketing? Both can be true. Brands don't watch moments, they buy them. A clean gesture with a logo attached turns outrage into equity. The dad who chose calm became Dad of the Year, not because a committee voted, but because the timeline did. That kind of corporate halo changes the temperature. It reframes the night as a win, punctures the doom loop, and makes the mob look a little smaller. But it also creates a new wrinkle. If a meltdown can trigger merch drops, clubhouse access, and a road trip fantasy, what are we teaching the crowd about incentives? That question kept the discourse alive even as the smiles spread. Some commenters swore the arc was complete. The kid got more than a ball. The team protected its image. The brand got its applause. Roll credits, except real life doesn't fade out on cue. Because while the gifts poured in, the hunt kept burning. Misidentifications, DMs to strangers, and a woman at the center who still hadn't said a word. And that's when the dad stepped back into the story. Not with a victory lap, but with a message the internet wasn't expecting. Please don't do anything to that lady. The father could have soaked up the applause. He didn't. He stepped back into the spotlight with one sentence that cut through the noise. Don't go after her. No victory lap. No gloating. Just a plea for decency from the guy who had every reason to be angry. It reset the tone. For a moment, the mob paused. Because the hunt had gotten ugly, commenters weren't just sharing the clip. They were tagging names, guessing workplaces, pointing at lookalikes. Innocent women woke up to DMs demanding explanations for something they didn't do. A few even had to post, "It's not me," just to get their lives back. That's the part the algorithm doesn't highlight, the collateral damage of a narrative moving faster than facts. And the dad knew it. His message wasn't a defense of what happened in the stands. It was a line in the sand about what happens after. You can condemn the behavior and still refuse the pile-on. That nuance is rare online. It's even rarer when a story is this viral. But he said it anyway, and it mattered. There's a cost to the crowd solve. Employers get emails, families get calls, schools get pulled into a scandal they weren't at. The internet wants closure, so it manufactures a suspect board. If you fit the outline, you become the outline. And once a nickname sticks, the human being underneath it disappeared. Meanwhile, the core truth didn't change. A kid lost a moment. The teams tried to fix it. A brand turbocharged the make good. But none of that justifies turning a mistake into a manhunt. That's why the father's plea hit, because it asked for something the internet hates: restraint. Still, one unanswered question kept fanning the flames. The woman at the center stayed silent. No post, no statement, no apology. And in 2025, silence doesn't feel neutral. It feels like gasoline, which is exactly why the next chapter only got louder. Silence doesn't cool a viral fire. It feeds it. Every day without a statement becomes another cycle of guesses, parody apologies, and sources say hot takes. The woman at the center leaves a blank space, and the internet hates blanks. So it fills them with theories, with fake screenshots, with think pieces that sound definitive because they need to be. The longer the void stays open, the more the story hardens into a legend. And legends don't care about context. Media loves a cliffhanger, and this one writes itself. Will she take the $5 K and write 2 words that the crowd can frame? Will she keep the ball and own the villain arc for good? Or does she vanish, letting the nickname outlive the person? Brands, teams, and creators have already moved on to the meta debating ethics, etiquette, and the price of public penance. While the original voice everyone's waiting for never arrives, that absence becomes the headline. There's a reason PR playbooks start with acknowledgement, not because it erases what happened, but because it steals oxygen from the rumor mill. Without that first sentence, "Here's what I did and why," the narrative belongs to whoever speaks the loudest, and right now, that's everyone else. The fans who want restitution, the commenters who want retribution, and the marketers who see a moment they can monetize. The truth is, the ending is already being crowdsourced. One camp wants the apology ball signed and returned, tied up like a morality fable. Another wants the clip to stand as a cautionary tale. Don't be that fan. Meanwhile, a third camp shrugs and says the internet will move on by next week, until the next meltdown resets the clock, because it always does. So we're left with a strange equation: a boy who lost a baseball and gained a memory, a dad who chose calm and became a symbol, and a stranger who said nothing and became a story. The ball may be out of play, but the narrative isn't, which brings us to the only question that really matters. Now, the one that decides how this sticks to everyone involved. And it lands right where it began. What does a real win look like after a moment like this? Baseball promised a memory. The internet delivered a verdict. Somewhere between those two things, a kid learned how fast a good night can turn. A dad learned what peace costs, and a stranger learned what silence invites. A ball left the field and became a mirror, and everyone watching chose what they wanted to see. Maybe the lesson is simple. Moments are fragile, and crowds are hungry. Maybe it's sharper. Public shame is a currency now, and someone's always willing to spend it. Teams will stage fixes. Brands will write checks. Commenters will keep score, but the people inside the clip still have to live with it when the feed scrolls on. So what's a real win after all this? Is it the bat that sits in a kid's room? Proof that the night bent back toward good? Is it a two-word apology that turns a villain into a footnote? Or is it a choice we make the next time a ball flies our way to hold our ground, to back off, to remember there's a child attached to the story? Here's the part no highlight reel captures. The ending is ours. Not the algorithms, not the nicknames, ours. The next time a moment breaks in public, we decide whether to fix it, to feed it, or to walk away. One swing changed everything tonight. The next one is on us.